be taught to dance by Patrick Swayze. I genuinely would. That would be great. I only watched that film recently. I thought it was great. It brought a tear to my eye. Don't quite understand at the end though. While it's set in the 60s and yet they're singing that song which has a very 80s production right at the end.
Not?
By that point, no one seems to care. Yeah. So what would yours, Dan, be?
Well, anything by Mike Lee, I think. Cheer myself up. Proper good laugh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
The whole world of fantasy at my feet.
For me, Ghostbusters. Bill Murray, wisecracking. He's got a big gun thing. He's wearing a big all-in-one suit, shooting stuff. Brilliant.
I'd be the helper mouse in Basil the Great Mouse Detective.
That's a good idea, actually. Do they solve crimes, presumably?
Yeah, and they ride on a dog that's really cool. I'm too big to ride a dog.
She's so excited.
Which answers the other question we had, which was what animal would you ride on if you could?
Absolutely,
So,
we've got that answered by two. Excellent. So we'll draw up that list and we'll test that maybe next week on maybe a listener. See how they go. See how they pan out.
Or a special guest.
A listener. So we have to quickly delve into the pigeonhole, get your opinions on a couple of new tunes. Keep it quick, keep it snappy. First up, new single from The Verve, Love Is Noise. Forthcoming single from The Verve that is released digitally on the 3rd of August, and then you can get it the next day if you like it so much on CD on the 4th of August, and it's called Love Is Noise. Obviously they had a triumphant performance at Glastonbury. For those that saw it, I thought it was excellent. But what about that new single, Harry?
Quite enjoyed it. The Glastonbury performance looked alright. Friends who were there said it was a bit one-paced, which is something you could probably accuse The Verve of being. But that was a bit more up-tempo. Sounded a bit like James to me. Quite liked it. He lives near a laundrette near me.
Who does?
Ashcroft.
Oh! Round of applause. Tiny Dan, it's no bittersweet symphony. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's not. I think it's a good thing. I was largely expecting to dislike it. I thought I've heard all I need to hear from The Verve. But surprisingly upbeat. I like the waha waha bit. Probably the first song that they've released since Bittersweet Symphony that's made me want to walk down a road violently bumping into strangers, but in a good way.
Sure. Sammy, it comes finally to you because I imagine you barely remember The Verve first time round.
Yeah, they were there. They were in the background of my middle school experiences. But what was that? That wasn't. He's got such front, Richard Ashcroft. If he could back it up with more beautiful songs like Symphony, then that's fair enough. But don't come out with all this, I'm God, I'm better than everyone else, and then release something like that. Love is beautifully inexplicable. That song was noise.
Ooh, I like that kind of opinion from Sammy. See, she's offered a little bit of bait there to the bloggers, whereas you guys sat on the fence.
I said I liked it.
No, it was nothing. All right, well, we'll have a little try then. We've got a new single released last Monday from Roots Maneuver. Hang on, let me press the right button. From Roots Maneuver. They can edit. They can do that in the edit. Don't worry.
Just live music.
BBC Six Music.
Roots Maneuver, Buff Nuff, released last Monday. Were you doing a little bit of booty shaking?
I think my booty just took over me there.
Good work. So does that mean that you enjoyed Roots?
My booty certainly did, but I think I enjoyed it twice as much as my booty.
Really?
Yeah,
Because your booty, I know your booty loved it. So if you enjoyed it even more, that's
That's some
a
love.
hell of a liking.
I saw Roots Maneuver. I know they hadn't been gigging or touring for a while, so maybe it was just a rusty first gig. But that song was brilliant. So, you know, buy the album. Don't go and see them live.
You've enjoyed that enormously. Tiny Dan, I didn't see any rump shaking from you.
No. Well, again, you know, it's that sort of thing. I did quite like it, but if I'm seen out and about listening to it, it just looks incongruous now. I'm far too old for it. So I shall enjoy it vicariously through Sammy's dancing.
Enjoying music through someone else's booty.
Yes.
Is that allowed?
I'm not sure.
Harry, you probably didn't enjoy that. That's not your sort of vibe, is it?
I quite enjoyed it, but we were sort of pontificating during the song that we do play a lot of stuff like that only ever in the Pigeonhole tracks. They never seem to make it to the Steve Show full track listing. Why is that, Steve?
It's a fascinating question, and it's one that will be, heavily debated, no doubt on the blogs, but also in the pub, because it's time for us to F off and leave you with some. I thought I'd play some Rod Stewart to end with. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks to the zombies. We'll be back next week, I'm sure. Hopefully I'll feel better, and I'll be back on top of my game. I'm just going to have a massive old nose blow while you enjoy Rod. See you next time. number 1 in 1997. That's White Town, of course, and Your Woman. It's the Steve Show, DC6 Music with me, Steve Merchant, and the reason I'm playing that, let me cut to the chase straight away, is I was walking through the Steve archive, the vast wing of my estate that just houses all of the music that I've collected over the years, and I was thinking to myself, there's a lot of good music that's been made by what you might term bedroom boffins. People just operating, you know, in their boudoirs, maybe with a laptop, maybe a Casio keyboard, making a lot of good music, and obviously that's what Jaiti Mishra, or whatever his name was, did back in 1997. And so anyway, I've delved from the collection. I've pulled out a number of what I consider to be quite interesting sort of bedroom gems that I'll be dropping in during the course of today's show. There's going to be quite a heavy music focus on today's show. I'm not going to BS anyone, because it's pretty much me and Sammy flying solo. Sammy, give yourself a round of applause. Give yourself a lone... Now, what mic are you on? Let me just figure this out. Hang on a sec. Go on, keep talking.
Hello.
There we are.
Hi, there I am.
That seems the obvious one to put on. So yeah, it's just me and you, kids.
I was maybe going
Can I
to do...
patronise you all the way through and refer to you
Feel
as kid?
free.
and
To be
stuff like
honest,
that?
I feel a bit sad today, so any sort of nice gesture like kid, pet, that's fine.
Why
That's
do you feel
fine.
sad?
I've just had one of those mornings. My phone doesn't work, the trains didn't work, the man next to me didn't work because he fell asleep so I couldn't have a wee. It was just a nightmare.
He didn't work.
Well, not in the way I wanted him to.
What? So you got trapped in your seat and you couldn't get up?
I had to sleep to avoid thinking about how much I needed a wee.
That's horrific.
I was so close to the toilets as well. I mean, I literally could smell them, so it was just
you
so
could hear them,
frustrating.
you could smell them, and yet you couldn't get near them.
Nowhere near.
So how long was he asleep for? Couldn't you wake him up?
It was a good 3 hours.
What?
Yeah.
That's
and
insane.
and he was listening to the Leona Lewis album on repeat, really loudly, to the point where I know the words to most of the songs now.
What on it? You could hear Leona Lewis
Yeah.
screaming out of his headphones. And
Don't
you
know how he
couldn't
managed to
urinate.
sleep through that.
And how? But why didn't you wake him up? That seems insane.
It's just that thing that takes over me, like guilt and politeness. I couldn't wake him from his slumber.
Were you in one of the two seats? And you weren't in one of the ones with the table.
It wasn't a table, no. We were in a two-seat for priority sitting, so we had a lovely legroom.
But couldn't you clamber out?
I didn't want to... It's always my luck that if I did try and climb out, I would definitely have landed on his lap. It would have been some sort of carry-on moment. I'd have
Sure.
been embarrassed, he'd have been more embarrassed, everyone would have laughed, and inevitably happened with carriages.
But he'd have been right during the moment, maybe during Bleeding Love, where it's at its most emotional. And he'd have thought, is this an overture? Maybe he'd have urinated himself, just through the sheer excitement of it. That would have set you off. There have been pools of urine all the way down the carriage. It would have been horrific.
It would have been a horrendous mess.
It's best to stay there for 3 hours. I could not do that. Because I'm a big...
I know what you're like.
You know what I'm like. I am terrible with the urination. I'm just... The only person who's kept me from not urinating for a considerable length of time, Mr. Bruce Springsteen, the boss. That is one of the reasons they call him the boss, okay, is I was at a concert, it was him, acoustic, no other music, 2 hours, maybe even 2.5, him on his own at the Royal Albert Hall, did not even think about urinating. So transfixed was I by the boss, not for one moment did it occur to me.
Maybe that's what you need, some sort of Bruce therapy to stop
I need
your
a sort
wings
of,
off.
yeah, like a wee whisperer.
That sounds a lot nicer than it is.
Yeah, because like if I have to do like maybe a gig or a perform, if I sometimes got to appear on a chat show, I'm so anxious. I'm so one time on the gig I was stuck backstage and there was no exit, and during someone else's act I had to just run off saying, I said sorry, I got to interrupt, I got to go for a wee. I was desperate. Otherwise I'd have to done it backstage in a pint glass, and that's not classy for a man who's won BAFTAs. So yeah, but I can fully understand. I'd have just I'd have used a bottle or something.
Well, the definite worst thing is I had to run straight here from the station. Still not been.
Ooh, well listen, let's play some music and give you an opportunity to get it all out of
Thank you
system.
very much.
Alright, good luck. Released on the 4th of August, that's the Essex band Magistrates, and the tune Make This Work. Is that better?
Yeah, I feel such a nice, calm sense
I
of
mean,
relief.
this is the one thing I would say about having to hold it in for that long. Is there anything sweeter than that moment when it's released?
Yes, when you've been playing in the snow all day and it feels like it's burning, but it feels great because it warms you up from the inside out. That's a fact I probably shouldn't let
I'm sorry, I don't understand. What do you mean you've been working in the snow?
Not working in the snow, but more playing in the snow. But if you've been frozen on the outside all day and you go for a wee and it feels so hot, but it actually starts warming you up.
That is such a specific thing. I've never heard or even thought about that experience. That's so
Love that.
specific. There's no one who can relate to that out there. There's
I bet
absolutely
you
no
someone
one.
can.
No one.
Jude can. Jude
Yeah,
nodded.
but Jude's a weirdo. We know that. But I cannot believe that anyone has got such a specific, pleasure in their memory of. Well, anyway. But no, I just sometimes I will. This is between you and me, kid. I'm going to call you kid all the way through. Just between you and me, kid. Sometimes I will hold it in, just so I can have the pleasure of letting it out.
There again.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's not appropriate, let's talk about it on a Sunday. sue me. But what was I going to say? Yeah, no, it's weird. I mean, where is everyone else? Not that it's not happy just to have you here, but I'm trying to think, where is everyone else?
Harry is in New York. Dan is working.
Yeah.
And Rufus is in his play, I think, in Manchester.
Okay, well that's fair enough.
Hiding from people from Pilcopedia.
I quite like the fact that we're here together, though, Sammy, because it sort of reminds me. Have you ever seen the film Paper Moon?
No. I know of
think it's-
Button Moon, but not of
No,
Paper
Paper
Moon.
Moon's film in the 70s, and it was Ryan. What's his name? Ryan O'Neill. And his daughter Tatum O'Neill, and they're a kind of, I think they're a dust bowl of the 30s, you know, and you know, I think they're sort of, anyway, they probably learned some life lessons along the way, and I'm wondering if that's kind of what this is going to be like today. I imagine, you know, you're the kid from the rough side of the tracks. You know, you've come down, you're spending time with the guy from the big city, the sort of urban guy, he knows how things work. You know, you're a bit wide-eyed to begin with, but by the end of the show, you'll have, you know, I'll have learned something from you. Don't know what that could be.
I think you already have.
Sure, yeah, but not just weird stuff about urinating. And you'll have learned something from me, and we'll sort of be closer, even if we have to separate, and there's quite a tragic, tearful ending. You know, maybe I die in a boxing ring or something. But, you know, I think that's how the film ends, I can't remember. But anyway, I just wonder if, you know, it's how I feel that this could play out for us. So, I think it could be quite a...
That's fine by me.
And there's sort of like, you know, and you're sort of, I don't know, you're sort of a bit scrappy, sort of a scrappy kid, you're getting into brawls and stuff. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I just got momentarily distracted by a gigantic crane moving over your shoulder there. Sorry about that. I was fascinated.
We should point out that that's through the window.
Yes.
And not just kind
Not a bird that's entered
Sure.
the studio at all.
No, but I should just point out as well that we're not probably going to be alone. We are hopefully going to be joined by the comedian Mark Watson. You'll have enjoyed his
Excellent.
work on Mock the Week and the like, and he'll be here as well, chatting and playing music and whatnot. But in the meantime, I want to play Love Roller Coaster by the Ohio Players. Let me play it. Let me explain afterwards what I wanted to mention about playing it, having just played it. All right, so I'll play it and then we'll talk about having played it. Ohio Players from 1975, Love Roller Coaster from their album Honey, and I was just listening to that earlier, and I thought, you know, as I like to do before the show, do a bit of prep, obviously, and was reading about it, and of course, famously, and I'd forgotten, it's part of music, urban legend, folklore. Sammy, now you may not be aware of this, but that song is famous because supposedly, well, I'll play it and you see if you can identify what supposedly the urban legend is. Okay, so I'm just going to play a little clip right from sort of midway through the song. Just have a listen. Okay, now did you hear in the background the sort of chilling scream of a woman? Have another listen, see if you can hear it. Sounds a little bit like a horse. Something like that, but supposedly, now here's the urban legend, right, supposedly, I don't know how these things happen, but apparently they do in the rock and roll world, is supposedly, while they were recording that song, a woman was stabbed to death in the studio. Now, my suspicions are that generally, if people are murdered whilst recording something, you probably notice. I think you might even stop the tape and say, do you know what? Let's clear up the mud, let's clear up the blood, and then let's record the song again.
Just go again.
Just go again. I'd at least have one more take. But no, so the legend goes. Now the Ohio Players were famous because they had kind of quite erotic album covers for the time, and the Honey album features a woman sort of dripping honey on herself, and supposedly this woman, while doing that, the honey had been heated up, she scolded herself terribly, she was so angry and furious that she stormed into the studio while they were recording it, and to complain and wanted extra money and compensation stuff, and according to the legend, the manager of the Ohio Players instantly, like any manager would, stabbed her to death. Right, this is what the urban legend is. It's amazing. It's been going on since the 70s, and so supposedly that's what you hear in the background, is this sort of chilling death cry of this woman.